Hello and welcome to Real Geeks. I am Crash and Burn, and with me, as always, is Mike Montgomery.
What's up there, Internet?
How's it going? How's it going? And we are back for more with Season 4. A few more changes, sadly a few fewer hosts. Natasha is off studying film at school and Vita had to step away. But we in the show wish them all the best and hope we can get them back in the studio real soon.
And as a wrestling fan, at least you didn't say we wish them the best in their future endeavors.
No, everything's good, everything's fine, everyone's just busy. And that's why we've actually transitioned to this hot, new, crazy, sexy new format. Yes, we'll be bringing you a brand new episode of Real Geeks every week, right here on your favorite podcasting service, channel, app, or whatever. We just haven't figured out which day it will release on. Probably one ending in Y. We'll see. With the occasional special video episode when we have guests over and have to bring out the nice china. Mike, are you excited for Season 4?
I am absolutely, as long as for once the plan actually holds together.
That's why we've stripped it down, because my computer fucking hates video rendering, but it loves audio rendering. I don't know why.
Whereas my computer just hates.
Yeah. Just in general, hates. It's a hateful, bigoted machine. Real news. Yeah, that's right. Real as in, like, juxtaposing with fake news. It's a bad pun. Ryan Reynolds news, as the Vancouver action comedy actor announced this week that Sean Levy has been brought in to direct Deadpool 3. The pair have been previously very busy this year and last. They worked together on The Atom Project and the surprisingly watchable better version of Ready Player One that was Free Guy. It's gonna be a weird film because it's gotta, like, they have to find that right line of, like, near R-rated Deadpool violence,
yeah,
without actually going into it. And I think Free Guy really pointed towards where that could come from. I completely understand this decision.
Oh, it absolutely did, but I think also when you look at things like the upcoming Moon Knight, the fact that all the Netflix shows have now moved over to Disney Plus, and when Disney had first acquired the Fox properties and people were like, oh my god, how are they going to do Deadpool? You can't do Deadpool if it's not R-rated. Well, to that I would say, I mean, yes you can. It would have to be very different, but yes you can. And also, with those acquisitions, with the Moon Knight and Disney clearly at least starting to move into the darker Marvel properties like Moon Knight and Blade and so forth, I think the people that are the least concerned about all this are Disney.
You know, I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say they might know what the fuck they're doing. In this specific term. That's yeah. It's funny that you say, like, with them bringing in like darker stuff to Disney Plus. That actually leads us into story number 2. The Parents Television and Media Council slammed Disney for plans to include the Netflix's Punisher, starring John Barenthal, on their streaming service. And it's like, have you noticed that there are about 16 seasons of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia on that same service?
Yeah.
Yes, The Punisher is a very brutal and violent show, but I would not say is morally more compromising than a single episode of It's Always Sunny, and there are literally hundreds of episodes of that show. What a weird thing to complain about.
It's the Parents Television Council. They will look for anything to scream, won't someone think of the children about? I mean, literally anything. This ties in peripherally another thing with good old We Got This Covered, who, if you see one of their posts on Facebook, at some point you're going to see a comment from me going, why are you believing these people? They had actually posted an article. Like, I won't even click the link and I can already tell you it's bullshit. But what their headline for this story said, parents are upset at Disney bringing these properties in.
Ooh, parents are upset, yeah.
What a difference.
Meanwhile, yeah, I'm sure they're referring to their two members who happen to be overbearing parents. I am very certain. I am very certain. I am upset about this, and quite frankly, I'm slightly entertained by the idea that anyone at the Parents Television and Media Council sat down and actually watched 2 full seasons of The Punisher, just to make sure. Maybe at the very end he comes to Christ and becomes a really nice guy. Nope.
Well, there was that one period where the Punisher was basically an avenging angel, so I mean...
Yes, and I like to take the Garth Ennis approach to that and say, no, we do not talk about that. We do not talk about that. Speaking of mistakes involving children, we got a Kenobi trailer reveal this week.
Oh, Jesus.
It was shown off at the recent Disney stockholder meeting in an attempt to, please do not look at the money we gave to the homophobes. Please, please, please don't. It's filled with Imperial Inquisitors and, quite frankly, for my taste, not nearly enough headcanon Anakin following him around just being a complete shithead. That's all I want. I don't necessarily need plot or development, story structure or anything. All I want is to have Ewan McGregor as an aging and annoyed Obi-Wan Kenobi, followed around by this version of Anakin he has in his head that is immature and overly friendly. And that's the version that over 20 years builds up to be he was a good friend. And it's just man, he's been off murdering people for 20 years. The Anakin in your head is not related to reality whatsoever. And that's all I want. I just want him to essentially disappear into the sands for 20 years and start talking to himself. Is that really too much to ask for?
Well, I think the only thing I would say to that is, one, that they could very well still be doing that, and that may be why the only hint of Anakin in this first teaser is the sound of Vader breathing at the end. But also, I would point out, you are asking this of a fandom that lost its fucking mind over the shape of the Grand Inquisitor's head.
It didn't have enough lines in it. It was too round. It's supposed to be more like straight up. Motherfucker's supposed to have a dome head, not a sphere. I completely get it. I get it because when Cad Bane showed up, my first response was, "Oh my God, it's Cad Bane! That's amazing. Yeah. They've made him right." And then you look at him his head is the wrong shape and his lips are not moving correctly. I hate it. And it's wow, what pissy little bitches we are.
First and foremost, animated will never, ever perfectly translate to live action.
No.
This is just a fact of life and 21st century film technology. It is not going to work. Ahsoka Tano, even taking into account the fact that this is a character aged forward now for live action, still not a perfect translation. And I don't care.
No, and that's the thing. It's definitely layers of it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but for Star Wars. Yeah. These kids don't understand what it used to be like when there was no Star Wars. They are drowning in Star Wars and complaining that the Star Wars they are drowning in isn't perfect. Bless their hearts, I hate them all.
It can be cruel, poetic, or blind, but when it's denied, it's in violence you may find.
Justice. The answer's justice.
Well, enough of that. On with the show, and what a show to start with. Yes, after decades of relative obscurity, little-known pulp comic character Batman has finally gotten a film of his own. What a concept. Who knows if we'll ever see another Batman movie ever again, and with this attitude, I went into Matt Reeves' 2022 movie, The Batman, and well, damn, were my low expectations blown the hell out of the water. Oh, so good.
Oh, it's So was this... Oh, Matt Reeves, thank you. Thank you.
Starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, Colin Farrell, John Turturro, Andy Serkis, and half a dozen other fantastic performers who would get higher billing in any other movie. So jam-packed with awesomeness was this flick. When the mayor is brutally murdered by a killer with a mysterious political agenda, police reluctantly turn to a young vigilante, the Batman, to help solve a series of cryptic clues, some addressed directly to the Caped Crusader, before the city collapses in terror and tears itself apart from startling revelations about Gotham City politics, policing, and even the benevolent and tragic Wayne family itself. And holy shit, is this movie so good, it makes me kind of wish that it was the only Batman movie that ever existed. This is the 10th film to feature the Dark Knight as its title character. Very specific there. More if you include other films he just happens to appear in. And who knew that it took just shy of a dozen to get it fucking right?
Yeah, and with that, I don't know if I would quite say that I would want this to be the only Batman movie, because I am willing to keep the Nolan trilogy, as well as the 67 Batman movie, because that was just funny as hell.
Oh yeah, no, like, oh, my mistake. 11, because I forgot 66.
Oh yeah, no, like with the 66 one, unless you stumbled onto it in a video store, you have no idea this thing exists.
Yeah, like for our specific generation, Batman 66 was rerun on YTV every day, two episodes a day in the early 90s, and so almost every Canadian our age has seen all of that, but that's like a fluke of weird programming that gave an entire nation that knowledge. In the rest of the world, people didn't come across Adam West's Batman again until like the internet brought it up.
Exactly. And just in general, like I was texting a friend of mine last night, and I just flat out told her, this is the greatest Batman movie since 1989.
It's a Batman movie. It's not a movie that happens to be made about the Batman. It's not an auteur film, you know, like the Tim Burton films and the Joel Schumacher films and the Chris Nolan films. They're all good. They are like in their own individual ways, but they are those filmmakers making their films and kind of like using the Batman as set dressing. This is someone who has dug into the last 40 years of Batman stories and pulled out the best parts of everything and made a Batman story first. It's not necessarily their auteur style. It's not necessarily them trying to get like their own message and viewpoint through. It's a Batman story. It's a Batman story about corruption.
Exactly.
This is 3 hours of a comic book that was never specifically written, put on screen. Like, it's beautiful. It's fucking beautiful.
Well, I don't know if I would specifically say comic book that was never written, specifically because so much, like, the first 95% of this movie is pretty clearly pulling from The Long Halloween.
Right, but that's the funny thing is like it boils everything down. So we've got influences from Batman stories, including The Long Halloween, Year One, Earth One, Year Zero, Hush, Venom, Ego, and of course then the realistic history of the Zodiac killings, and then pulling aspects of the January 6th insurrection, which itself has like thematic ties to the Joker movie from a few years ago. Like, how the hell do you make a movie that not only touches the zeitgeist, it also comments on the zeitgeist that led to the previous film and the previous film's influence on the audience and the toxic elements of it? Holy shit!
And it's so beautifully subtle about it as well. As somebody who watches and generally enjoys the CW shows as well, I mean, I'm not going to call them Emmy-worthy or anything, however. they, especially with Batwoman, tend to do a lot of the same thing. But when they do it there, it's something that I've often complained about, where it feels more like a checklist of terms.
They very much want you to know, hey, we disagree with this, and we hope you do too. And then they look you dead in the eye, and then it goes, okay, can we get back to the show now? Okay. Yeah. I eventually walked away from the CW because they kind of started targeting more that stuff instead of like the richness of their characters or seeing where like the actual plots would go. And it became just kind of like, it became Berlanti's blog. Here's where I choose to comment on stuff. And here I'm going to do it through this episode of The Flash, or I'm going to do it through this episode of Batwoman. And it just became like, man, I just want to see Flash fight Captain Cold again.
Whereas with the Batman, it's, you almost don't notice it, but at the same time, it kind of will just stick in the back of your mind.
Yeah, and like, it only becomes overt once, really. Selina at some point points out to Bruce that, like, no, this is all just like white nonsense. You're rich and you're detached, and all of you are horrible people who don't even realize the influence that, you know, and that you're having and the unintended outcomes. And it was in almost any other film where like someone intentionally shoves that dialogue in, it would feel forced. But here, it's a new concept that they're calling character development and dialogue based on plot. It actually makes sense for the growth. It's fascinating to watch people try to, like, especially Snyder Bros, try to tear this film apart as being woke and stuff like that, because they already seemed ridiculous, and now they're just complaining about things that are in almost every single Batman story anyway. I mean, these elements are in good Batman comics. They haven't been brought into a good Batman movie because, quite frankly, until now, every Batman movie has been incredibly, insufferably white. Not that this one isn't.
No.
But it's not insufferably.
No, and it's something that I saw a couple of times in articles on Facebook was how apparently the movie we're going to discuss, The Batman, is not the first time Zoe Kravitz had tried to play Catwoman. From what I was seeing online, she had auditioned for the role of Selina Kyle in The Dark Knight Rises, and was told she was, again, air quotes here, too urban to play the role. And as I was watching the movie, I kept thinking that story, and it's like, she's doing a lot of the same things Anne Hathaway was doing.
Yeah.
That's doing them better.
Right? I mean, that's the thing. Her version of it is far more comic accurate. And Anne Hathaway's playing, like, and we'll get into this further, but Anne Hathaway is playing a version of the character as Chris Nolan needed the character to be to tell the story that he needed. He wasn't creating a movie with a rich Catwoman character in it. She is a mechanism, and like you can almost immediately just see it. Of like Christopher Nolan would look at her and be like, "No, you're not the quite frankly the white aristocratic character that I have in my head," because he is, of course, very white aristocratic. It's how he approaches things. And this is, again, we'll get into it further, but this is the first Batman movie where I think someone actually made a Batman movie instead of a filmmaker made a movie that happens to include Batman.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Also, speaking of the Snyder Bros, which, first and foremost, fuck the Snyder Bros.
Fuck the Snyder Bros.
And if there's actually one person related to this that I feel sorry for, in a way, it's Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Because this was, like, This was originally supposed to be his movie. And on the one hand, if he had done it, we would not have gotten this movie, and that would be a bad thing because this is glorious.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that man tried so hard with the Snyder, with Snyder's Batman. He worked his ass off. He was like rewriting the script while on set in costume, sitting in his Batmobile. Like he deserved a better Batman movie, and he won't get it.
Yeah, and I'll agree with that. Like, I'll agree with that. He is my least favorite Batman. And it's just because I don't think Ben Affleck brings the right kind of things to Batman. Like, he makes for a really good depressing Batman. He does, absolutely. Yeah. But I agree with this film where Batman shouldn't be depressing. Like, that should be a momentary spot leading towards something else, whereas like they fixated and made that the focus of his character. And there's just, when was the last time you ever saw Ben Affleck play happy, like content?
Yes, but yeah,
he doesn't do it.
I honestly don't know.
You know, there was no way that those movies end with him having a moment of like peace, because that's not how he played that version. And I just, full respect to him, he's a fantastic actor, hardworking, creative. I don't think he or Henry Cavill should have ever been near those roles, and this kind of shows why, because it needs richer acting styles than, quite frankly, you know, like the Jersey kid who's kind of rough. Even though Batman is literally a Jersey kid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And like with Cavill, like I've always said that he demonstrates such an understanding of the Superman character in interviews that he's another one that I think deserves a chance at something much better than what he's been given so far. But that's a whole other episode.
That's a big other thing.
Like I said, I feel sorry for Ben Affleck. If there's somebody that I am just happy as fuck for right now, it is Robert Pattinson.
Yep.
I know I've mentioned this on past episodes, but this might have been so long ago that I don't think you were even on the show yet. But are you familiar with the Harrison Ford exemption?
No, I don't think I'm familiar with that term.
Well, what this is it's the general rule that an actor who has one franchise role is referred to as the character from that franchise every time they're cast in something. So, like, for example, Christian Bale it's Batman has been cast in so on and so forth. The Harrison Ford exemption kicks in when that actor has two franchises inspired by, of course, Star Wars and Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which empowers him to be able to do other things far outside, such as the Jack Ryan franchise, which, like, you'd look at Harrison Ford as Han Solo and be like, no, we're not giving him a taut fucking political thriller. Were you stupid?
Yeah. And the terminology now would become Harrison Ford has been cast in instead of Indiana Jones has been cast in or Han Solo has been cast in.
Yeah.
And Robert Pattinson now qualifies.
Yep. And that's the funny thing is, like, performance and art film nerds knew he was an incredible actor because where's Robert Pattinson been since Twilight? Well, he's been making art films for the most part. And they're breathtaking, and they are rich, and they are not monetarily successful because they are art films. But everyone who has ever seen anything he has performed in outside of Twilight has been super fucking excited for him to finally get a moment like this, where he can not only like do a different character, which I'm gonna say actually This is a very sullen and moody. This is a very Edward Cullen Bruce Wayne. So it's kind of funny that he has kind of gotten stuck into a character, but it's like it's like the first time it's like you've been typecast as this slice of ham. It is a cheap slice of crappy budget ham from Safeway. You have now been upgraded to delicious Black Forest honey ham imported from Germany. Congratulations. You know, you're still ham, but it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, and this time around, that sullenness, which I would almost dispute that, because so much of his character performance is less sullen and more just rage.
Yes, there's quite a good deal of rage, and not it's a rage we haven't seen from a Batman actor since I think Michael Keaton broke the vase in Batman '89, screaming, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts!" No one else has played him with that. Like Christian Bale had that quiet rage, but it's like it's too controlled. This is just like when they the first time you see the Batman in action, it's super intentional. You know, it's brutalizing a gang of let's just be honest, the Jokers. You know, he's brutalizing them, and it's an uncontrolled level of rage that we haven't seen before. Even Ben Affleck still had like the control of an old man, being like shut up or I'll hit you. You know, just like that warning of like just stop. You know, this character didn't have that. It was, I'm going to hit you, and you should have known to stop. It's an immature rage, and it's fascinatingly performed. Like, this movie and that performance is so good that you're going to ignore other performances. This is a fantastic film. This is a film where John Turturro makes you want to punch him in the face. That's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
This is a film where Colin Farrell is in this movie, and I have to remind myself that constantly.
Yeah, oh God, yes.
Because you watch his performance as the Penguin, and an interesting thing happens in my mind where it goes, why did they bother to get Colin Farrell for this? Because he's just doing James Gandolfini, and that's the fucking reason. Why? Because he does an incredible James Gandolfini. Where the fuck did that come from?
Right, like, even without the makeup, that the voice work he's doing, like just that Jersey accent.
Yeah.
You could literally put Colin Farrell himself right in front of me doing that voice, and I would not clue in that it was Colin Farrell. No.
So many times, just like, where's Colin Farrell? Right. He's in the fat suit. He vanishes into the role in a level like if you've seen In Bruges, you know Colin Farrell can do really good acting. You know that there are good movies in him. It's not all Bullseye. But sweet fucking Jesus, the man is capable of things that I don't think any of us thought he was.
Another thing with Pattinson, there are a lot of little things that he's doing. Like, a lot of just his movement in the bat suit is so slow and methodical and Predator-like.
Oh, I love how he just walks into, like, you can hear him coming. It's sneaky, but, you know, because he got into that point. But from that moment when he wants you to hear him, it's all you can hear. It's fucking terrifying. This is a terrifying Batman, and that is terrific. A quiet, terrifying Batman who just slowly creeps out of the shadows, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it actually, that's funny because it juxtaposes then with the Batmobile, because this is the first Batmobile I have ever seen that feels like a threat. You can have tanks and shit. You can do the over-design. No, this is the only one. I completely understand why Penguin's response to it was, fuck this, I'm out. Because it's like, no, that is not a car. That is a threat. That is a personal threat.
Oh no! It absolutely is a car. It is a car out of a Stephen King movie.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, but forget the sound of the engine. But as soon as he turns the lights on, that is a demon car.
That's a demon car, and it's coming to kill me. And then it comes out of the fire, and Scary.
I had wanted to go to how this movie pulls wonderfully from previous Batman properties, but speaking of the car coming out of the fire,
Yeah.
I've seen comments about how this movie is humorless.
Bullshit.
But
Bullshit. The moment he
speaking of-
leans down slowly and is upside down looking at him, I almost expected him to ask, "Do you need assistance?" Do you need assistance?
that was a glorious moment that just adds so perfectly to the psychological terror of like the mythological version of Batman.
Yeah.
But what I'm referring to is actually right before that. First and foremost, just the simple fact that like 95% of that chase sequence was done practically, which respect.
Incredible.
But right before the Batmobile goes flying through the giant wall of fire, when all the vehicles wrecked, and that one car carrier trailer in its entire wreck lands so perfectly right in front of the Batmobile to give him that ramp to jump through.
It's just perfect. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that like if you design a really brilliant action scene, it doesn't matter that things just happen to coincidentally line up. It just makes it fucking hilarious and awesome. You know, and that was so good. Such a kinetic mess, but you can still follow.
Yeah, don't tell me that there's no humor in this movie, because just how they put that ramp front and center and didn't care. I was busting a gut.
Right? You can't tell me there's no humor in this movie, because every time I see the clip of him running through the police station, I fucking burst into laughter, because there's something so... Okay, this entire film has, I feel, a secret influence throughout it. And that secret influence is Adam West. There is so much Adam West in this. This is the dark version of Adam West, and it's not just in the way he runs away like that, which was just pure West. You know, just booking it past cops. It's in the design, and I feel like this is an intentional approach to like de-escalate Batman. Of course, the entire point of the film is he realizes that you can't just like use terror. You have to build hope. People have to believe in something. And throughout the first, I want to say 2/3 of this film, you only ever see the Batman really in darkness. You know, it's like you get the profile, you get the basics of it, but you're not seeing any details. He's still Batman. He's in shadow and all that. But the more that light starts spilling onto him, the more you start noticing specifically the bat brows, the eyebrows that are built into the suit. And I think an intentional choice was made to make them, throughout the film, they become more accentuated through the light until the very end. It's so close to the mannerisms, the facial mannerisms of Adam West with with the little eyebrows and everything, that subconsciously you are seeing that version of Batman. Like when he's reaching for the child's hand, it's the Adam West Batman spiritually. Not any of the dark Christian Bale stuff, not Ben Affleck. It's going back to that original version of just, yeah, I'm dressed scary, but I'm here to help you. You know, it's like childlike wonder in a film that is rated, and, you know, like PG fucking holy shit, and has the Zodiac Killer in it. There were children in the theater when I watched it.
Yeah. Yeah, this may not be the one to take your kids to.
Maybe not.
But just with the scene of Batman reaching out and the kid being the one to take his hand, I think there's such a degree of symbolism just in that one moment, because throughout the entire movie, every time Batman looks at this kid, Bruce is seeing himself. And I think you can make a case where that was the moment of him, or at least starting to realize that rage and vengeance are not the only thing that's going to help him save the city, and almost making peace with himself in a sense. Also, one negative criticism that I've heard is that the Batman, the character himself, doesn't really have a character arc in the movie.
What?
And I was just going to say, I would dispute that, because there was a line that Liam Neeson had in Batman Begins that I kept thinking of over the course of particularly the final act. A vigilante is just a man lost in the scramble for his own gratification. He can be destroyed or locked up. But if you make yourself more than just a man, if you devote yourself to an ideal, and if they can't stop you, then you become something else entirely, which is legend, Mr. Wayne. And I would say that is this Batman's character arc over the course of the movie.
Absolutely. Like without a doubt. He goes from just being someone who is acting out of a selfish version of his own rage, and actually learns to involve himself with his family, to involve himself with his community, all of which he's cut himself off from, to actually consider a life beyond essentially committing suicide by going out every night and becoming the Batman until it kills him, which he absolutely is at the beginning. And I love how this film did so much work to play into the tropes of the grim and gritty, like a libertarian kind of like Rorschach, like even the diary, like the way that it reads, he reads narration throughout it. This could so easily have gone in, the way of the Joker and just been an excuse to be a complete asshole. But it reforms all of it. It completely says, no, you have to do better. You can't just be this loner prick. Viewer at home who is obsessed with the Batman for this reason. You can't. Batman is about family. Batman is about community. That is the fucking point of doing it.
Oh yeah, like I'd say Christopher Nolan walked so that Matt Reeves could run.
Absolutely, he did, and you have to give respect to Christopher Nolan, but then you look at them and you're like, God damn, those are stiff films. Emotionally, physically, this is rich and fluid and actually has good fight scenes where people punch each other instead of air. Or
but like there are so many elements of Batman that the Nolan movies kind of just touched on, but then quickly moved away from. And Matt Reeves pretty much just takes all of those elements and just yoink, throws them in here, and just makes the entire movie out of that.
Yeah, the entire everything in this is rich, like, and detailed in a way that if you're a Batman nerd, you'll look at aspects and be like, oh, I bet this is this, this is this, this is this. It's not like, as I said before, like Christopher Nolan and previous directors, they make their films that happen to be Batman movies. Like the Nolan trilogy, it's a Nolan trilogy. It's you could technically swap in any character for that, because the overall point of the message of it was what matters. This, you could technically strip its message out and you still get a fantastic Batman film. Like just a good Batman story about solving a murder. It's everything that you want it to be and more. And by more, I mean Jeffrey Wright making the decision to call him man. It's a small thing. It's a very small character thing. But I adore Jeffrey Wright for it, because it personalized it in a way that that we've never had like a Gordon and Batman relationship. He's actually trying to be this guy's friend. He's trying to humanize him. He is doing everything he can to make this weirdo seem like accepted and logical and reliable. And I all I want is a cut reel where he tries out different versions, because I want him to at some point just be like, hey hot lips, hey sweet cheeks, hey hot stuff, we gotta get out of here.
Oh yeah, like with that relationship, there is a lot that they do that I really like, because I like how Gordon is already almost that father figure.
Yeah.
Towards the end, there's a moment where Batman is just full on rage mode, beating on somebody, and Gordon is the one who stops him.
He puts himself in danger.
Yeah.
To do that. Like, the Batman could have wailed on him. And like at this point, he's high as shit on, let's be serious, it's Venom. That's what the reference is to. It's the classic story of Venom, where Batman took a ton of drugs to keep himself going, and the rage came through. That's what's really good. This is an incredibly efficient film, because it was able to pack that like 6 issues worth of storyline into 30 seconds. And not only that, it means so much more going forward. Venom has been introduced. There could be a Bane.
Oh, they're absolutely could. I think the only thing with those two that I didn't like is I would have liked maybe just a 30-second flashback to just establish how they became partners.
That'd be. I suspect we're going to actually. So yeah, leading into the final point and what we're going to the reveal at the end of this, which I think will tie into. We'll see year 1 as flashback. Likely not in the second film. I think they're going to do a 3-film like slow burn on this.
Yeah.
But in the third film, we'll finally get the full-on Joker reveal by actor Barry Keoghan, who I had no idea was in this, or let alone cast as the Joker. Holy shit, what a surprise. I think that this is going to lead to a trial of Batman, and from there we're going to get the flashback and all of those details. I suspect, the first case that the Batman worked on that got Gordon to agree with, to finally see, like, okay, he's not just some crazy vigilante, is he probably stopped the Joker and therefore proved that he wasn't murdering whoever the Joker was murdering. That's how the Joker got there. But because that happened in that corrupt landscape, by the time we get to the trial of the Batman, it's the Joker's gonna have this massive cast to play from, and this great 20+ year history of details and mistakes and things, and it's going to be insanely glorious. I can't fucking wait, and I'm basing that entirely on just how slow and intentional and methodical this was, and how rich and like deep the references it. I saw someone, I can't remember, I think it was Screen Crush. They claimed that this story is likely because Matt Reeves saw an Adam West made-for-TV movie in the, I want to say, late 70s. That was a really, really cheesy, reunion special for 66. But it included the Riddler setting traps and games for the Batman, and it ends with the Batman, stopping this bomb plot of his. And at the end of this movie, the Batman 2022, there is a thank you to the writer-director of that cheesy, shitty TV special by the director of this, by Matt Reeves.
Oh, nice.
This, Matt Reeves, deep dives like you wouldn't fucking believe is suspected. So I am looking forward to a trial of the Batman, because no one's done that yet. No one has had the balls to, and it requires such in-depth knowledge of not only like the Batman, but every character relationship with every villain. That's my insane prediction of the day.
Well, I mean, in all honesty, it may not be that insane, because as I understand it, Reeves has, I believe, said that he does have plans for a trilogy.
Yes.
So that could happen.
Yes.
And another thing, and I do think it would be very interesting to see how he would do it in this world, is that we could get Mr. Freeze.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully expect we're going to get and he's going to probably play a little weirder in the next one to intentionally amp it up. I think we're going to get Mr. Freeze. Yeah. I think we're going to get Poison Ivy. I think we're going to get like Clayface. And at some point, if you're going to have the trial of Batman, you have to have Two-Face there. We're going to get Harvey Dent probably show up to replace the DA who died in this film.
Well, I think Two-Face definitely. The only thing that I would say is I don't think that he would do Poison Ivy.
Really?
Specifically because he wants to bring in Mr. Freeze.
See, I think that'd be a great way of rehabilitating both of them at the same time, to be like, yeah, I know. This has been tried and failed horribly before. Watch.
I mean, well, like, as much as I have total faith in Matt Reeves after this movie, at the same time, I think if you were to bring in Freeze and Poison Ivy at the same time, you're evoking memories of Batman and Robin possibly a little too much.
No, that's only if you throw in a Bane who is like a Frankenstein. They should pay Tom Hardy to come in and then just give him lines that are only grunting and see what he does with it. Oh wait, it's Mad Max again.
As somebody who just legitimately enjoys like old school film noir and so forth, this just made me so legitimately happy.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, like, you know, as someone who watches like a lot of film noir, a lot of crime film, yeah, you can see like, oh, you're pulling from that. You're pulling from that. There's a ton of Godfather in the soundtrack for this, for instance. A ton of Godfather.
Yeah, like the soundtrack.
Which, by the way, amazing soundtrack.
Colin Farrell's Oswald is said to basically be Fredo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
oh, Fredo got fat and ran the family. Oh my god. That's great.
Also, speaking of the soundtrack and the subtle references, like I remember how there's that moment in the Justice League movie where Batman is basically perched on a rooftop for the sole purpose of bringing in the old Danny Elfman theme for a moment.
Yeah.
And there were points in this movie where I kind of went, Did I just hear a hint of the old theme there?
Right. But instead of it being like, okay, hold on, everyone, we're good? Okay, we're gonna do a reference now. Hold your tits. Yeah. Instead, it was organic, and it just came up naturally. What a concept. Subtlety.
Yeah, like, naturally, and you almost don't even notice it, which, thank you.
Yeah, until after, and you're like, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure that was the tone. And it's the same way as with, like, the Godfather one. You're not, like, hearing it and being like, oh, wait, that's totally riffing on the Godfather. It's after the moment you go, wait a second. And same with, like, I think they intentionally chose to James Bond up any of the music when it's Selena and Bruce.
Yeah.
Like, that's a James Bond theme. It's a James Bond love theme. It's not only a James Bond love theme, it was specifically a Roger Moore Bond-era romantic theme I could see it immediately of like Roger Moore, 60-something years old, his 18-year-old actress, ingenue that he has to then romance. It was perfect. It was the best cheesy Bond romance in a Batman film. All of it. Love it. I give this film my memories of all previous Batman films ever so that it may scatter them to the wind. This is what I believe in now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And in terms of my actual rating, I'm going to go back to the Nolan franchise one more time and say this is the movie Batman fans deserve and absolutely the one we need right now.
Oh, that was fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We have been Mike Montgomery and Crash and Burn. If you like the show, please leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, and we'll be back later this week, actually, with a brand new episode about Disney and Pixar's bright new cash cow, Turning Red. Until then, goodbye, everybody.
See ya.